Hello everyone and welcome to another Super Science video with the Madison Regional Library. I'm Miss Stephanie, one of the children's librarians, and I'm really excited to share two science experiments today which could be described as magical. And they can be described as magical because it may be hard to believe that these things can happen, but there actually is some pretty cool science facts about why they take place. And we'll be doing two things. The first, I will show you how to poke holes in this bag of water without it leaking. And then the second is to turn this simple egg into a bouncing ball. And so I have everything here that you're going to need for the experiments. The eggs, about 6 or 7, white vinegar, vegetable oil, as you can see right here, and then some plastic spoons or just regular spoons will work too. Some paper plates because it's going to get a little messy. About 6 or 7 of these size containers, preferably with lids. We'll have about 3 sharpened pencils and some masking tape and a pen to mark with, and then some food coloring as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, for this experiment, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how you can poke a pencil through a bag without it leaking. And so the first thing you're going to need is a quart-sized bag, and you can fill it about 3/4 of the way with water like I did. And then you're going to want to get 3 to 4 very sharp pencils for this activity. And I'm doing this, I think this experiment will work, but I'm just going to do it over a bowl just in case. So all you got to do is you're going to take your sharpened pencil and poke it through the bag. Oh, there's one. We see any leaks? No. Let's try another one. Another amazing. The bag is still not leaking. Let's see what happens when we do a third one. All right. Yes, as you can see, I have poked 3 very sharp pencils in this bag, and it's still not leaking. See, there's no water in my bowl. And you may be wondering, how can we do this? Well, it's because this plastic bag is made of something called polymer, which is a very flexible material, which helps be a barrier for moisture. And so what happens is when the pencil is poked through, it creates a little seal around where it enters and it exits to prevent water from leaking out. And so this is a really cool experiment. You could do it if you have a very brave friend or family member. You could have a little magic show and do this over their head, but you might want to warn them a little bit in advance. So that is the leak-proof bag experiment. Okay, now we're going to do our science experiment where we change this simple egg into a bouncing ball. And as you can see, if you know about your eggs, eggs can be pretty fragile. And if I put this down, do you think it's going to bounce? Nope, it is not. And if you can see, and always do this with a paper plate or lots of paper towels or just something underneath it, this egg is cracking. And it's ooey. And it's not bouncing at all. So you may be thinking, how on earth are we going to make this egg bounce? Well, what we're going to do is, let me put this aside real quick. And what we're going to do is we're going to do something. It's going to you have to be a little patient for this. It's going to take a few days to do. And what we're going to do is we're going to put eggs in containers with vinegar and vegetable oil and wait 2 to 3 days to see what happens. And I bet you that one of these two will turn that egg into a bouncing ball. And I wonder which one it will be. We'll have to find out. So what you'll need to do is, I have the vinegar right here, and I'm going to do this I'm going to put the eggs to wait in 3 different places, which I'll show you in a little bit. And I'm just going to do 2 of them right now in front of you, but I'll do 1 for each of the vegetable oil and the white vinegar. So what we're going to do first is we're going to fill up the container with the vinegar. And the important thing is they can be different sizes, but you have to make sure that the vinegar is going to cover the egg completely. So you can just pour it straight into the container, or if you think it's going to be a little too messy, you can get a little measuring cup to put it in there too. So I'm putting vinegar in this one. Alright, and then I'm going to take some food dye. I'm going to do different colors for each of them. For this I'll do green. And I'm going to put about 10 drops in here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And what I'll do is I will screw the cap on, and I will gently swirl it around so the colors will mix with the water a little better. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my spoon, I'm going to get one of these eggs from the container, and I'm going to put in the spoon to gently put in, because if the egg cracks, then the experiment will not work. So I just want to gently and carefully put the egg in the container. And as you can see, the vinegar is completely covering it. So let me screw the cap on this, and then we'll do the same thing for the other container, but this time with the vegetable oil. So, got that. Wipe off the side a little bit, and we'll put this aside. And then we'll do the same thing. You can use a measuring cup or a cup if this is a bit too much for you. And so then I'm going to pour the vegetable oil in here, just enough so that it will cover the egg. And then I'm going to once again take an egg from the carton, use my spoon to gently put it towards the bottom. And I'm going to put a few drops of food coloring in this one as well. We'll do blue. And we're going to screw the lid back on. And all right, and I'm going to show you all the different places where I'm going to put the eggs for 2 to 3 days. All right, as you can see, I've put the containers with the eggs, with both the veggie oil and the vinegar on the windowsill, and we're going to see if the heat has anything to do with changing these eggs into a bouncing ball. All right, and now we're also going to put some in the refrigerator, and we're going to see if the cold will affect whether these eggs turn into bouncing balls or not. All right, and I've also put eggs in the back storage area, which is room temperature, which is not too hot or not too cold, and we'll let them sit for the 2 to 3 days and see what happens. All right, so it's 3 days later from when we put the white eggs in both the vinegar and the vegetable oil. And as you remember, I put them in 3 locations around the library. The first was in the refrigerator. The second was on a back shelf where the temperature wasn't too hot or too cold. And then the third place was on a windowsill where the sun could hit it so it could get hotter than the other eggs. And what I'm going to do now is we're going to see what the vinegar did to these eggs and see what kind of chemical reaction happened. And as you call it, a chemical reaction is when a substance changes to another substance, and we're going to see if putting these eggs in the vegetable oil and the vinegar caused a chemical reaction. So I'm going to start by doing the ones from the fridge. So we'll do the egg and vinegar first, and you will want to get some gloves, napkins. I have a tablecloth because this is going to get very messy. I'm already spilling stuff on myself. So here's the first one, and I'm getting it out with a spoon, and we have this purple egg here, and there is no shell on it, which means there was a chemical reaction between the materials in the shell of the egg and the vinegar, and it's completely gone. It's actually kind of bouncy. Let me get it out. Let me show you. Look, I can squeeze the egg. I can put it back. Remember how I showed you how I cracked it and it just like you saw the yolk and the membrane? Nope, this is a completely squeezable bouncing ball. Let's see if it bounces a little bit. I'm going to get a container. You guys think it's going to bounce? Let's find out. Oh, there is a bounce. It's not very high, and you might have to experiment a little bit, but maybe it's the cold temperature didn't cause it to bounce as high, but we'll see in that when we try the other 2 in the vinegar. Now, I'm going to get the egg out from the vegetable oil. So let's get that one out and see if there's a chemical reaction with this one. All right, oh, we still have a shell here. Yep, and you can hear the tapping. So there wasn't a chemical reaction when we put the egg in the vegetable oil. And we'll see what happens with the other ones that are in the vegetable oil as well. So now we're going to do the one that was at room temperature, which is not too hot or too cold. This is the vinegar. So let me open the container very carefully. There we go. And then let me get this one out. Oh wow, this is a very bouncy egg. Like, see how red it is and how color. And you've been wondering why the egg changed color, because the food coloring, it did a thing called osmosis. And osmosis is where it passes through, a material passes through the membrane of a living cell, and an egg is actually a living cell. And so that's what caused the color molecules to pass through and make the white egg this color. And as you can see, there's no shell. This kind of bounces a little bit as well. Maybe a little more than the one that was in the fridge. So yeah, you could squeeze it. And that's pretty cool. And then we're going to do the one in the vegetable oil. Let me get that one out. Oh, we still got a shell. So there's no chemical reaction with that, just with the vinegar. So we'll put that one aside too. And then for the last one, let's look at the eggs that came from the windowsill. So, well, actually, I'll save the one with the vinegar for last, because I think there's something that happened to that egg that did not happen to the other ones. So let me get the last egg out of the vegetable oil. Okay. Tap the shell. Yep, we still got a shell. It's not bouncy. I won't crack it, but as you can see, it's not a different color. It's the same color that it was when I put it in. So we found out that vegetable oil, when you put an egg in for 3 days, it's not going to do any type of chemical reaction. Now, the different thing about this is I'm noticing is that the egg in this one actually got bigger. And I'm actually going to have a pretty hard time getting out of the container because it got so big. So let me just carefully, oh yes, see, I'll compare sizes. See how bigger it is? It's not too much, but it's still significantly bigger than it was with the other one. And like the other two, it's still bouncy. And that's just really cool, because you just saw this chemical reaction. And while it does a few things, it's just really kind of a magical thing if you think about it, how an egg that if you crack and you get yolk everywhere and the membrane, it's really messy. But if you put in vinegar, it changes into a bouncy ball. So, I hope you had fun with that experiment. Alright everyone, I hope that you enjoyed doing those science experiments with me. And as fitting with our theme of magic, I have chosen a couple books to just recommend about magic. The first is about the world's most famous magician, Harry Houdini. It's Who Was Harry Houdini by Julie Sutherland, and this is the same author who wrote the Wings of Fire series. And Harry Houdini was a magician who performed in the late 1800s and early 1900s. And he did so many incredible stunts that some experts can't even figure out how he was able to do a few of them. And I'm just going to highlight a few of his incredible feats for you. The first he would go to the police department in London, and he would tell them to handcuff him with 5 or 6 pairs, and that he could get out of them in an hour. And he always did. And they couldn't figure it out, and he didn't get paid to do it. And another incredible trick that Houdini did was he would get into a container, he would get dumped into a river, and it would have chains on the box, and he would still manage to escape and get out and float to the surface. And it was great because he just did a lot of really interesting things. He donated a lot of money from his shows to World War I veterans, and he just lived a very incredible life, and he's a very incredible magician. And the other book I wanted to recommend today is called Illusionology. And this talks about the science about magic, which I thought was perfect for this video. And what I wanted to highlight is it just talks about how the eye looks and sees and how it can create illusions. And this is really cool because there's all sorts of flaps that you can look through, just all sorts of things. You can read a couple chapters, you can read the whole book straight through. It's up to you. And I just thought it was very interesting. They have a lot of magic tricks that you can learn. So if you thought these science tricks were cool and you want to learn some more advanced ones, this book would be the perfect one for you. So I would highly recommend Illusionology. Well, thank you so much for joining me for our Super Science video this month. I look forward to sharing more experiments with you soon. Have a good day. Bye.